Hankison's at Hankison.
He's absent.
Yep. Hamilton
Here.
and Moeller.
Present. Okay, also in attendance, we have Mayor Nicodemus, we have the VA, and then physical officer. And then I think it looks like the police chief's on there, Rick Foreman's here. And I don't know if there's anybody else or not. I don't see anybody else on there. Okay, and approval of the minutes from June 8th. I didn't see anything in there. I'll make a motion that we approve them.
I'll second it.
Okay, Moeller made the motions. Hamilton seconded. Roll call.
Moeller,
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Okay. Visitors. Is there any visitors out there?
No, I got no emails for visitors for finance.
Okay. Anything new to add to the goals, Mike, that you know of, other than keep the spending in 2020 appropriations?
Nothing I'm aware of.
Okay. Old business. Any old business? Hearing none, we will move into new business. Review of the monthly financials.
Okay. On page 1 there, the bank reconciliation. We ended up with last month, at the end of June, we had a book and bank balance of $2,011,274.94. We had outstanding payments of $35,211 and one deposit in transit for $431.
Yeah, if no one has any questions, no questions on that, just keep proceeding.
I don't have any questions.
Okay, moving on. Payment listing. Last month, it was a rough month for us. The town wrote $474,970.57 in checks last month.
I'm gonna take your pen away from you, Brian.
Of
Brian,
course,
is that the OWDA? Is that our yearly payment or whatever it is?
no, that's a semi-annual payment.
Semi-annual. Okay.
There'll be one more in December for the same amount.
Okay.
Let's see. We had some big trade. We had that one. We had the $67,000 payment to utility service company. Insurance $30,000.
Yeah.
What else is Burden Bulls 11?
What's the light? Yeah. What is Lytle Enterprise of Ohio?
Terry, can you refresh my memory on that one? Oh, was that the traffic lights?
What page are we on, please?
Page 3 or 4.
Third one.
The Lytle Enterprise.
Not quite in the middle.
The
Right above the logo light.
15,000. The 15,600. Wasn't that the traffic lights that the team bought?
Yep. I bet that's it. You're right.
It is.
Yep. You're right. Yep.
An expense that was well worth it when I saw them set up in front of the house.
I actually stopped when Tim was out on East Market working on them. I come home and I saw the signs. And I'm like, what's going on? Went out there. I helped him actually move them and get them off the road. And I'm telling you what, that was a good investment.
Yep.
I would have to agree. What better way to control traffic if you could control it by light instead of people?
Yep.
How many lights we actually get then?
2 of them.
Just a set of 2?
Yep.
Okay.
That's all you need. Both ways. That's all you need.
Now, if you got a 4-way intersection, you'll need.
No, but you're not using these for a four-way intersection. These are for moving traffic while you're trying to work on a one and making one road, a two-way lane road into a one-lane road. We're not using them for intersections. If anybody doesn't have anything else, we'll keep on going.
Okay, the next page is the finance report for the month of June. Star Ohio took another hit. We're losing interest. We're down to 255 last month. Fairfield National wasn't much better. It was like 220. Last month, Rita collections, that's in total now, was $63,975 last month of June.
But Brian, that's
yeah.
not totally to be unexpected given the COVID stuff, but with taxes not being due until this Wednesday, where we would normally get a payout in May and June from people paying in April.
Right.
We really need to watch July and August and see what happens.
Well, I just did a comparison right now, the first 6 months of this year versus first 6 months of last year. We're actually about $30,000 ahead of last year.
Just because we collected so much more to start with?
That I don't know. I'm just letting you know that right now we're about $30,000 ahead. If you take the first 6 months of this year and last year and compare them, you're looking at, so far collections are above last year by 30,000 roughly.
Okay, so Brian, with that being said, even though last year this time we collected 103, this year we collected 63, almost 64. So we're down 39,514. So in all reality, we're only down by 9,000.
Well, last year, you also remember in June, we got the $36,000 payment, reconciliation payment in June. This year, we got that payment in last month in May.
Correct. Yeah, but I'm saying we're not down really drastic though.
No, not right now. No, not right now.
And next month might be different because we don't have to pay till the 15th of this month. So our numbers we might be okay. We won't know that until.
Right. Yeah, they were projected to decrease I think from between the months of July and November, December, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
It looks scary when you see going from 126 to 63.
Yeah.
Right.
So, all right, sorry, you can go on.
Okay. Well, those are percentages in the major funds that we put in this pie chart here. The percentages: general fund we're at 52%, street fund 31%, water operating 46%, and sewer operating 45%.
And we're doing good in all those.
Yeah.
I mean, because what's our projected right now? About 50, roughly right around 50%.
Right.
So, I mean, general fund's up a little bit, but not much. But everybody else streets is well below it.
And then the last bar graph there, revenue status in the general fund. We're right at, well, except for contracts for police, that will change next month because I got a payment from the school like the first week of July, so that'll change next month. But the others we should be at 50%. We're above the curve on all the major line items in the general fund revenue wise.
Cool. Let's hope it stays that way.
Yep.
Yeah. Any questions on the finance report part?
No, I don't have any. Mike, do you have anything?
Just the third one, it's blurred on my copy. What is that?
What is what?
Third one in, 46.149%. I can't read the black and green.
Local government distribution. We're down a little bit. We expect some decrease there because of the COVID, and we get that money from the state and as well as the county, and that's down a little bit.
All right.
And then the next page is a summary of income tax revenues that I've been keeping track of since May. Since May, we've collected 251,000. Actually, 236 net. Well, the fees are involved there. And of course, I'm keeping track at the bottom I'm keeping track of what should have went where if we would have kept instead of the stuff going in the general fund. And the last page is the appropriation status by the line items by all the funds. I want to take you to a line of income tax collections. I mean, we should be around 50%. We're right around the 50% in all the lines except for income tax and property tax. Mainly income tax, though. Now, if you recall, I want to make sure when we sit there and council passed the ordinance to put all the money in the general fund, of course, all the fees associated with that went with that. So with that being said, our budget of like 39 to 40,000, we had budgeted 39,400 there. We're eating into that really, really quick. So we might have somewhere down the line, we might have to do something to increase that line item.
Just let us know if you need a resolution ordinance for that at the next meeting, Brian. And since we changed that, that's easy enough.
Well, okay, we'll draft something up.
Anybody got anything else for Brian?
I don't.
No?
Okay. Next new business item.
Okay, tonight you're going to have legislation because the annual tax budget is due. Through all this COVID stuff, I actually forgot about it until not about 3 weeks ago. It's the budget we have to send down to the county auditor, and I prepared that. I distributed it out Thursday, I believe, Wednesday or Thursday to look at. It's projected revenues for next year. I like to call this a fake budget because I had all these numbers could change between now and the end of the year. But it's basically by law we have to have one submitted to the county auditor by July 20th and have it passed by July 15th. And I think what I did is like for the revenues in the general fund, for instance, I took the income tax what we projected last year and I cut it 20% because that seems to be a going rate of budget cuts from what I've been hearing and so forth. So like for instance, so the municipal income tax, I budgeted $405,000 in the general fund, 322 in the street fund on page 3, and then what the rest was in the pool fund. I went back to the percentages on the assumption that we're going to go back to those percentages at next year. I think it was like $175,000 cut in income tax revenue, 20% of 875. I don't have a calculator in front of me. And I cut some other things too, like earnings on investment. A lot of the lines I sit there and I took what we've gotten so far this first 6 months, took an average and multiplied it by 12.
And like you said, Brian, this is just our liar's budget, right?
Yeah, this is for the liar's budget.
And it all balances?
All the funds have a positive fund balance at the end of the year. I had to go back and 2 or 3 of them kind of startled me. I had a couple of negatives, but it was because I put one too many zeros in the expenditures.
Okay.
Mike, you got any questions for Brian on it?
No, I was just laughing at these extra zero we put on there. Glad he caught it too.
Well, the first time I looked at it, general fund was like 300,000 in the hole. I couldn't figure out why. And I start comparing the expenditures. And, oh, there it is.
Double check.
You need a motion to move it on up to council tonight?
Well, it's going to have to be. We're supposed to have a hearing right before council. So I don't know, Mayor. What's?
I'll make a motion that we move this budget, 2021 budget, on into council for first. Well, you got to have it passed by the 15th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that means
And that has
tonight.
to be-
That means tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
that's fine. I'll make the motion that we move it on up to council.
I'll second that.
All right.
Roll call.
Mueller and Hamilton.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So Dwayne, I'll put you down as the sponsor on that for the.
That's fine. That's fine. I have one new business, and I'm sure Terry might even actually hit it on her report. I don't know. The COVID-19 reimbursement or whatever they want to call that. Is there a certain dollar amount that goes towards us, and then we turn in receipts for what we actually expenditured for? So
Yeah.
that if it's 50,000, but we only use 10, that 40,000 of it goes back or all that. Okay, well, just so you know, what we don't use doesn't physically go back. It goes to the EMA, which then they disperse to the sheriff's department, the fire departments, and all that. Just so everybody's aware. I just found that out at fire board meeting tonight, the other night.
So at least we know it's going to good use if it goes. back.
Yes, so the Liberty Township trustees decided not to accept any of theirs. So if it was $10,000, it goes right straight to the EMA. So then the EMA disperses throughout the county, where in Fairfield County, whoever needs it. So fire department be for masks or whatever. Sheriff's department's got a lot, that kind of things. So just so you were. They wanted me to pass it on, just to let you know that the money is going to be used and going to a good cause for whatever is not used by municipalities, townships, and all that.
Because we were actually talking about that, Terry and I, earlier last week about how it comes out because it's local government fund distribution allocation, stuff like that. Making sure
There's a set amount, but we won't know that set amount until we get all the paperwork finished and submitted. But there is a set amount allotted for the Village of Baltimore.
Okay, and that's what I figured. The township trustee was just telling us that they had voted to not accept any of it. In other words, they really didn't have any expenditures much at all. Unlike us, we did stuff in the town hall and all that kind of stuff for the protection between the employees and all that. So, in the police department and all that kind of stuff. So that we had costs involved where they didn't. So that's all I had.
All right. I have two, well, they're related, but it's two new businesses that are related. And those would be, and that's my bad, the late ordinances that came out today, ordinance 2020 and 2021. Ordinances that do the same thing, but in alternate ways. So as everyone knows, we've recently had a resurgence of water issues. and our biggest impediment to fixing the water issue is financing the repair and from Basel West. Because Joey just redid all the lines, came up, right in our ballpark of 15.5 million, not including engineering costs and all the overrun stuff to do the whole village. But to fix the area that's worst affected right now, Basel Road West is about $3 million. Well, the law allows us, since it's a water issue, we could just take out a loan and tax it on as utility debt. But that's going to add $18, a minimum of $18 to everybody's utility bill. And that's if we financed it at 0%. And I got that $3 million, 1,200 users, 30 years, 0%, just straight division. But people were also saying that I was saying, they want it fixed now. And so I was thinking, how can we do this? So Ordinance 2020-20 is an ordinance that would allow us to put on the November ballot an option for the issuance of bonds. And the bonds would be associated to millage on a property tax. So the first is a resolution of necessity for the auditor to tell us what that millage would be. And then at the next council meeting, we would pass a resolution to proceed, and it would be put on the ballot for people to be able to vote. We want this water issue fixed. We're willing to assess it to our property taxes at this rate for this repair, and vote on it that way. Ordinance 2021 does something similar. It allows us to finance $3 million, but to do it through a commercial loan, however we would finance it, and assess it on utility bills, just like we do with our current debt for wastewater and water. 2020-21 is not a binding election. It's an advisory election, so it's basically an opinion poll. But if more than 50% voted in favor of doing that, we would know we would have a majority of community support to be able to do that, to fix the water lines for everybody from Basel Road West. And I thought it might not be bad to put both of these on at the same time, since it's a presidential general election in November. Our costs will be lower to put them on. So if people vote yes for both, we don't have to take out the commercial loan, obviously, because the one that would do the bonds is a binding one, and we could issue the bonds. So the only thing we would need to do is determine the interest rate of those bonds, because when I sent it to Jeff, I didn't know what to put in there. And then as I was thinking about it, I think if we just said, whatever the government bond rate is on the date of issuance, so just the T-bill rate, we would have the interest covered. But this way, we could get something out there for the residents to vote on, and if they pass one at the election, then we can issue bonds, and it's financed so that we can make those repairs. If they turn that one down but approve the other one, we'll know we have majority resident support too if we wanted to finance through a commercial loan those repairs. That was kind of my thoughts on those. They are time sensitive because they have to be in August ballot, and the one requires this resolution, us getting information from the auditor, and then another resolution.
So Brian, Brad, my question is, so if we did the one, we'll say the 20, if we did, even if we did both, I'm just saying, if we did the one but we didn't end up doing the other one, it's only going to get us from Basel Road at Market to the western line.
It gets us those quadrants that Terry and Joey and everyone's been working on the hardest, those worst affected areas, those 2-inch lines, and that worst affected area, Basel Road, Liberty Street, and Westwood, and that area.
Okay, so with that being said, that's changing the line. That would be all new line. course, we got some new line on that one part of on High Street. We got new line there. So that's going to change this line. Some of these areas that are 2-inch, 3-inch, 1-inch, whatever they are, to a minimum of what size?
I think, Terry, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that those numbers are based on the existing projects that we have to do over the next 5 to 10 years in those areas. And I think that's a minimum 4-inch line.
6. We're going for a 6-inch line.
6-inch line.
Yes.
So all this does, Dwayne, is like, if you remember when we set out and we said, okay, these are the projects that we have to do to repair and replace all of those lines for that worst affected area. And we said we don't have the money to do it, so we broke it out over like 5 to 10 years. All this does is finances all of those projects now, so that instead of waiting 10 years, we can do them next year and the year.
And I'm fine with that. I just think your minimum size line should be an 8-inch line. Then you got your fire leads that are 6-inch line. And if we ever do anything with our main trunk line, I don't know what size it is right now, like that's coming up. At one time we were talking about coming up Washington, going out west, and we were talking about, and we got the line on 256. You know, our main trunk line, main feeder line should be 12. You know, I really hate to see us 4-inch, you need to get rid of 4-inch, and 6-inch you should only use for fire feeds. And we shouldn't go any lower than an 8-inch main.
And there is a little bit of room in there, because I think the actual number came in around like 2.67 million or something like that. So I rounded it up to 3 million to allow for your 10% overage on the project, because now we're talking, you know, an additional $250,000 there and engineering costs. So depending on where those come in, you know, I'm sure Terry and Joey and Tim can look at going from the minimum 6-inch line to the 8-inch line in some of those areas as well. There's a little bit of extra room in there, not a lot, but some.
And don't get me wrong, 6 inches is better than nothing. I just think if we're going to do it, let's do it right for a long lifespan, and which will outlast probably any of us. But I just think we ought to make sure that we got the volume water for the future, whether we expand or we don't expand. But I think we ought to make sure that we're, at least our main trunk is a 12-inch and our feeders are 8, and then all stubs to hydrants are all 6.
Well,
Then
and that's
we should be good everywhere.
And that's the thing that's here as well, because a lot of that's the residential. None of that cost right there does anything with the trunk line from the plant on the other side of the village to get the water over to them. That's just those residential
Oh,
areas
I know.
right in there. So
I know, but you got to start somewhere, and at least if you have the 8-inch feeds, then you know eventually we do need to look at our main trunk line, or shall I say our distribution main. You know, we need to make that a 12-inch main. We need to make sure it's up to date and everything else. So we've got a lot of things to do, and this is a heck of a good start. I mean, it's either now or 10 years from now. You know, for me, I'm tired of the complaints. I'd like to see us get it done. Do I want to pay more? No, I don't. But I'm tired of hearing all these complaints.
And in the bigger scheme of things, the cost of the pipe is incredibly low.
Oh, absolutely.
Once
go
you've
from a
dug the
16-inch
ditch, the
pipe-
cost of the pipe is nothing.
Yeah. And it
It's
doesn't
the
cost me
labor,
more
the
to-
planning, the engineering,
Yep.
the fire hydrants, all that. The cost of that pipe is so insignificant to the
Yep.
overall cost of the project.
And that's why I
So
say
go
you better.
big on the pipe once you've got everything else in place.
Yep.
But
I agree.
right now we just need the financing for it.
Oh, I know, but I mean,
Yeah.
the money you were talking about, I'm sure at 2.6 million, you can get 8-inch or larger pipe in that same budget under 3 million. Because if you look at the costs of the total project, the cost of the pipe is really low.
Yeah.
And if we're doing it all at once, we could have some bulk advantage as opposed
saving.
to, yeah. So, but I presented it as 2 different ordinances with 2 different options. That way we have options. Only one of them is a binding if the voters, vote in favor of it.
So Brad, when you say the one would be based on your property taxes, correct?
Correct.
So what does that do to a normal homeowner what would that
Yeah.
dollar amount possibly be?
My
I know it's
question.
based on the millage. I know it's based on the millage.
So that's what this resolution tonight does, 2020-20. This is the resolution of necessity. This is what the village has to do. Pass this, and then we send that to the county auditor,
County.
which is why we got to set an interest
Okay.
rate. And then the county auditor says, in order to issue bonds over 30 years at this percentage, this is the millage that you will have to increase the homes by. And then they return that to us. And then we,
Which do you think would be the more sellable? Water rate go up or property tax?
I don't know. And that's why I kind of presented both, because I can see that there are arguments in favor and against both of them. Both of them are going to affect everybody in some
Absolutely.
way. But it's hard to say until we know what that millage is.
True. True.
Because if you're looking at property tax versus, $18, a minimum of $18 a month. So we're talking about an extra just over $200 a year on utility bills
Mhm.
versus, the property taxes, because it's more spread out, only goes up $120 a year. Then
Yeah.
But there's also a big shift in who's paying it and who's voting on it, one versus the other.
Correct.
On the bill, you're talking about the renters paying it.
Yep.
On property taxes, you're talking about the landlords paying it.
Correct.
And so, and a lot of them don't vote, which is
Yeah.
fine. I'm not concerned about that. Everybody wants clean water. I'm just saying that the dynamic changes dramatically between the two. And the
Yes.
confusion, I'm worried about the confusion that they'll both go down terribly if we put them both on the ballot.
I've been worried about that as well. But at the same time, I don't, we have a cost benefit of putting them both up now because we don't have to pay as much to get them on the ballot because of the election cycle we're in. And quite honestly, I tend to think that someone's either going to, if they vote in favor of one of them, they're probably likely to vote in favor of both of them because they want the solution and they see where we're at. And if they're opposed to one, they're likely opposed to the other.
I'm afraid that they'll think that both of them are an increase for them.
Well, and that is, I didn't think of doing a lot of, advertising and pushing for this and stuff like that, but figured there would be at least a couple of posts and make one town hall or one letter out to say, here's what it is, to explain the difference. Maybe we can include that in the utility bill. Here's what they are. This one is for the millage on the property tax. The other one is advisory that just basically says you're okay with us getting a loan and assessing it to your utility bill. You can vote in favor of both, or one or the other.
So I'm like, here's my question. I guess it kind of goes along with Rick's. So we're at what, 47% rentals, roughly?
47, 50.
Yeah, right in that area. So, that's my concern too, is the one, it would be mostly anybody who lives in Baltimore versus you've got 50% rentals. Some of those people don't even live in Baltimore. You may not get any of those votes. So is it still open for every resident to vote on, even if it's a property tax? Because the renters aren't going to, it's not going to hurt them.
You have to live here to vote.
Right.
Yeah, you have.
And that's
Yeah,
what I'm
so
saying.
If you live here and you're registered to vote here, you would vote here. The one is kind of like the school taxes, when they do the school levy, stuff like that.
So basically, what you're saying is if half the homeowners live here, but half of them don't live here, your percentage is a lot higher because you're going to get the affected people that are here and not. So then basically everybody will get nailed for it, but the other ones that don't live here don't get to vote on it.
Correct.
Right.
I'm fine with whatever. I want it right for the residents. and I want to do the right thing here, which is something that we're moving farther forward than we ever have on trying to get our water problem fixed that we all know has been an issue. And like I said, I don't want mine increased anymore, but I'm all for us getting something going so we can fix some of this water problems.
So, and that's kind of where I was at on these. Is let's figure something out, and then the election cycle being where we're at in the cost. Let's see. Maybe everybody votes in favor, and the millage doesn't come back that.
Yeah, I'm just worried about the one on the increase in the bills harming the one on the property tax. Like maybe we could have passed the sure thing if we hadn't put them both out there. That's my concern. Maybe not.
So
Well, I see what he's saying. It's just got to be explained very well so people understand the reason we're doing both of them is so that we can see where the best bang's going to be, shall I say?
People
Whether
don't
it
pay
be-
attention. People
whether it
don't pay
be-
attention.
Oh, I know they don't. And $218, or if the millage, depending on what the millage comes back, it's $150.
Right.
So I don't know. I can see it both ways, like Rick said. I can see it could be fine, and it could come back and bite us. I mean, who knows?
and there, we could put one on now, and then if it fails, put the other one on next March. But my concern with that is next March, you're talking a midterm election just after a presidential election. You're probably going to only get 20% turnout at best.
Yeah.
So,
I'm just wondering if we could call if putting the property tax on was considered Plan A, which requires voter approval, and increasing the water bills we call Plan B, which doesn't even require voter approval. It's basically
yeah, I mean,
let's let us add it to the property tax so that we don't have to raise your water bill.
right. And so when we talk about it, we can talk about it as Plan A and Plan B. The resolutions and how it gets put on the ballot has some prescribed language. But the one does say, advisory, but if we go forward with both, I kind of like that idea, Plan A or Plan B. Here's what's on the ballot.
So did I hear Rick right? Then if we do 20 and versus if we don't do 21, whereas if we decide if this one fails, 21, we could go ahead and do it, all that without voter approval, and we just raised the water bill $18.
Correct. So the law prohibits us from having so much debt. However, it exempts water infrastructure and wastewater infrastructure from those debt allocations. So council on its own can just say, we're going to take out a $3 million loan to fix this problem, and we're going to assess it on our utility bills. Council can do that without any voter approval whatsoever. I was just kind of putting it out there as an advisory one because we get so much because of all of that past debt on there, and $18.
Well,
that $18 is $3 million at 0% interest.
yes.
So it would be another sizable increase for everybody.
Yes, it would. But I say, I kind of like Rick's idea. I think we ought to go for the 2020, nice 20, put that on there. We'll see what we get, see how it turns out. And you can still do a town hall, but you can have this other one in your pocket that, hey, okay, this is one choice, but now you decided you don't want to do it. You didn't
We
like
have no
this
choice.
idea.
We have to do this other.
But so now here's the other option. Here's what we're going to do. You want to fix it, you have to pay for it. You
Right.
can't nothing's free in the world. So if you don't like this option, here's the other option. You choose.
So I like that because it's option A is this
Yes.
bond.
Yes.
Option B is take out the loan. Option
Yes.
C is it takes 10 years to fix.
That exactly. A, B, and C.
It
The
just
other
helps us sell it. I can help sell
Yes.
a bond issue if I can break it down into, we have to get this fixed. So here's our options. We can do this bond issue that you may not like, but help us pass it. Or we're gonna have to take out this loan and raise your water bill, which I know you're gonna hate. Or we're gonna have to just fix it as we can afford to fix it. Which do you prefer? Help us pass this bond issue.
Yes.
Now, the other thing we have is we don't have to pass 2021 tonight because it's just a resolution to put it on there. It doesn't require a second act of council. So if we pass 2020-20 tonight and we get the millage back from the auditor and it is so astronomically high, then we can have another discussion. Is it worth putting 2021 on as opposed to the one with the bond millage?
Okay.
So, to do that, we would need a motion to amend 2020-20 to include the interest rate of, to just say that whatever the interest rate of government T-bonds on July 13th is, and that'll be the rate that we use to issue it at, and then a motion to bring it to council.
I'll make that motion that we amend it to add in for the interest rate of the T-bonds once we know what they are.
All right.
What's the date on them bonds? July 30th?
Well, I just said today, July 13th, because we got to know what it is today to send to the auditor.
All right, that'll work. I'll second that then. Gotta start someplace.
Yep.
Roll call, please.
Okay, Moeller,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Okay. And I'll make a motion that we take this on up to council.
Mike, you second that?
Yes.
Okay, roll call.
Moeller,
Yep.
Hamilton,
Yes.
And just to keep the record straight then, since we got 2020-21, which has been prepared, can we just get a motion to table that one for now until the...
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we table 2020-21
All right.
Second.
at this time. Do I have a second?
Yeah, you second.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't hear him. Okay, roll call.
Moeller,
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Yup.
That's all the new business I have.
Just moving forward a little bit. Okay, is there any other new business? Seeing none. The next meeting will be scheduled for Monday, August 10th at 6 p.m. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. At 6:50.
All right. So we'll take a brief minute to reset for rules.
Hey, Terry,
Yes,
did they get that pole out of the ground up there at Union Street?
that's on our to-do list this week.
It looked like it was out.
I think he has to get something at Ace Hardware. He's gonna rent something, or he's trying to get one from Shane Hamilton. So that's on our to-do list for this week.
I'll say I saw it when I walked this morning, but when I went by there to get my paperwork, it looked like it might be gone, but maybe
No,
it's not.
I wish.
Okay. Okay.
All right, so let's do rules. We got Chuck on, we got Wade on, and we got Rick. All right.
Are you ready?
So, I think you're ready, Chuck.
Okay. At 6:51, we will go in the Rules Committee. Brian, roll call.
Keller,
Present.
Cosgray,
Present.
Foreman,
Present.
Okay, also in attendance, we got the mayor, we got the VA, we got the police chief. I see him on there. Brian, we also have Mike Hamilton, and we have Wade on there, the council members. Approve of the minutes of June 8th.
I looked at them, I didn't see anything. I moved to approve as written.
I'll second that.
Do I hear a second on Wade?
Wade,
Okay,
second.
okay, motion and a second. Brian,
Keller,
yes.
Cosgray,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Okay, the minutes has been approved. Visitors, I don't think I've seen any. Mayor, is anybody on?
No one could be on this one because we're live streaming it. And I got no emails for rules, public comment.
Okay. Golds, anybody want to add anything or any comments? All right, not hearing any, we'll go into old business. Employees, or wait a minute, cemetery fees, that's still on hold, Terry?
Yes, please.
Okay, I see that. Okay, we'll keep that on hold till something comes up. Any more old business? I think that was the only thing we had. So we'll go in and do new business. Amending chapter 446.03, prohibit vehicle traffic in the village park and no other village property. Terry, I'll let you talk to them because you've been getting all the slack on this.
Okay, thank you. The purpose of this amendment to the ordinance, first of all, it does not have to be passed as an emergency. It can have a 3-read rule on it. But what it is that we continue to have many complaints from many avenues about specifically ATVs, unlicensed ATVs, running through our parks, going on undeveloped alleys, creating dust and issues for the neighbors. So this does not impact any vehicle like a golf cart that is licensed on the street. This is just only for those ATV vehicles, off-road vehicles that we have received the complaints on running through the park, etc.
And I'll add to that, Terry, that I sit on my front porch, or my back porch, or side porch, whatever, and I can hear that ATV about in the evening around 5 o'clock, and I rode my bike over there, and he goes around and around and around, this one, goes into the alley, go back in his property, and it is very loud, and it is dusty, so just add to that.
So I got one thing to add. I'm just curious. Wouldn't that be covered under no vehicles period in the park, running in the grass and stuff? Wouldn't that be, you really have to spell it out?
I guess I'm thinking of like the car show at the Baltimore Festival. I'm thinking of like the gator that the BYBA uses. I mean, I guess there are legitimate reasons for some of those vehicles to be in the grass in the parks. And I guess, how do you say, well, these can do it, but you can't do it? I mean, I want that guy to stop doing it. Don't get me wrong.
It's not one guy. It's not one guy.
But here's my problem. That's something we know about. We know when that goes on. We approve that to happen. This is just about like one guy over there that lets his dog go over there and poop in the yard all the time. That ticks me off because when I walk through the park, I step in it. There's laws. So 4-wheelers are a totally different ball of wax. This isn't during the festival. This is whenever he feels like running through there. So, to me, I'd make the fine so high that we confiscate the device, period. It's ours now. I mean, that's just the way I feel about it. It should not be in the parks at all, period. Or the streets. When I was a kid, if you got caught with a 3-wheeler on the street, you got a ticket, period.
And that's so like the street, we would have traffic ordinances that would take care of that if they're riding an unlicensed vehicle on the streets. The police have the power to pull them over and depending on what it is.
Is this going to include Rogers Gator
So
or other farmers' gators?
yeah, I mean, if they're unlicensed on the street, in order to be on the street, they got to have
I'm
a
not allowed to be
license.
on the streets.
So
So
to move my gator from 501 to my house, I have to trailer it?
Technically,
Technically, yes. Technically, yes.
And I mean, Roger Woods, I know he's not gonna be happy about it. I mean, what's the difference between the Gator and Randy Kimmer's golf cart?
Not a
Randy
thing.
Kinger's golf cart has a license plate.
License plate on it. He pays state taxes on it. So he has the right to be on it, and it's been certified to be on a state route or a road.
I mean, none of the tractors or anything like that that go through town have a license plate.
Farm vehicles are an exception
exempt.
to that requirement.
Yep, they're different. They're exempt.
So,
A lot of people come to the hardware on a Gator. And a Gator.
well,
Well,
and
if they get picked
there's
up,
a
then
couple
they should
with
know the
that,
law.
but it's not something that I don't think, the chief is obviously
Right.
not enforcing that as much.
And-
But
Oh.
even though that's a technical violation, this one though, but what I'm getting at is the police don't necessarily, it's harder for them to enforce that four-wheeler going through the park.
Yeah, I guess my thing was, couldn't it just be by an unlicensed driver? Because that way you get rid of kids. But you don't get rid of like
Right.
people for the festival or adults.
No,
Okay, so you're saying if I have a four-wheeler, I'm a licensed driver, I'm allowed to ride it on the road?
No, there's a difference between a four-wheeler and a side-by-side. They're kind of different. A Jeep, there's so little difference between a Jeep and a Gator. That, I mean, the only difference is maybe the width and the length, and you're right, the license plate.
But, if we did just a licensed driver, that would mean Dwayne could take a four-wheeler and go joyriding through the park because
Right.
he's a licensed driver. And that doesn't necessarily solve the problem because at least one of the people doing this is a licensed driver.
And I will admit, I was a kid once, and when I drove stuff places, especially a three-wheeler when I had one, believe me, I tore stuff up because the tires are on them. You don't try to, you tear stuff up. And right, wrong, and different. The four-wheelers do not belong in the park. Three-wheelers, four-wheelers,
Amen.
anything
I
like that,
agree.
they
I
don't
agree.
belong in the park.
I agree. I didn't know. it
Let
was
alone
even
the
going
highway,
on.
let alone the roadway.
And just to add to that, we have one resident that is so upset about it that they pay for a fence permit to put a 6-foot privacy fence up all the way around their property. It was getting so bad. So some of these are older gentlemen who would have license, but some of them are kids. I personally have witnessed young children riding those also. So it's for the benefit of our residents' safety and welfare, and to allow the police to be able to have some sort of ability
Mhm.
to do something to someone that we find in the parks or on village property. Chief, would you have anything to add?
Hold on, let me unmute him just in case because I think he's on phone.
Oh, well, if he's on the phone, he can't add.
If I can unmute him. Where you at? Unmute audit. I can't unmute you, Chief. You muted yourself somehow.
For what it's worth, Mayor, I think it's a good one to attempt to put a stop to it. I don't, I spent 34 years in law enforcement, and they're hard to catch, but you can do it. I know you've already got one over here in my neighborhood for it.
Yep. So the chief obviously is busy. So I just asked tonight that I get someone to sponsor this to go to council. It goes through the 3-reading rule. 3 readings does not have to be passed as emergency. And that's the reason why I have it on here tonight.
And the other thing we could do with that, Terry, since we'll have time, is we could put it on the agenda for safety as well.
Okay,
And because we'll have a parks meeting in between, we could get feedback from the parks committee as well.
oh, they already totally want it,
I
trust
think they
me.
were on,
Yes,
but
they're
at
on board.
minimum, we can get it back on the safety agenda as well, so that not only will people have an opportunity to email in and have, if they for or against it at council, but at safety as well. And so we have a second committee opportunity to discuss.
Okay.
And not only that, we can tweet it again, like Dwayne said, you want to put a fine on or whatever. It gives us time to look it over, get more public input and whatnot.
I'm good with that.
You know, we've already had enough damage to our parks from cars, and we have to go to an expense of putting up fences to keep that from happening. We're park poor. We don't need any more tore up than if we can control it, we need to control it so that, I mean, common sense should play a role here, but believe me, common sense is out the door a long time ago. And, you know, if they want to go ride four-wheelers, go find a farm field that you can go run in or go to Wayne National Forest or whatever else. Not just in town, because you're not supposed to ride them in town anyways. So that's my 2 cents with it.
And I also just remember something. In the wintertime, I have seen snowmobile going up through the alley and going to the park and back.
Yeah.
So we might want to add, I mean, it does say that, I guess. It does say, what was it? Or banning ATV and all like vehicles. So I guess you would, that'd be the same. So
I'm all for enforcing that, and I'm all for enforcing people who are not picking up their waste. In other words, they open their door, let their dog go to the park, and use it as the restroom so they don't have to clean up their yard. I also believe that we need to make the fine heavy enough, and we ought to make sure we got the right tools in place that we actually fine people, because I think it's ridiculous for our residents to go to the park and play in the park, and they got to step or tiptoe around dog poop.
Don't we already have an ordinance against that? So we just need to look at the fine on that then.
I think that's the issue. The fine, I think, is very low.
Because there's a gentleman over there that lets his dog out every day, and he walks across there and goes in that park almost every day, at least once, if not twice a day.
okay, with all the discussion on it, I think everybody, you know, like we'll bring this up against on council as the first reading, and if anybody want to add something to it or for the next 2 readings, we can all add it before we vote it on the 3rd council meeting again.
I want to add
Do I
one
hear
other
any
thing.
comments?
I want one
Okay.
other thing. I want to add one other little thing, just so Rick's clear on it. I am not out there to punish you on your gator, or Roger Woods riding his gator, or if Kimmer didn't have a license. I'm not out to punish you guys, because you're not the ones out in the park tearing them up. I understand that.
I know.
And I have no problem someone driving their gator, because I know another gentleman I went to school with, every once in a while you'll see his gator go through town. I have no problem with that. It doesn't give me heartburn. It does when I've got someone tearing up the parks.
And
That's where I
the
have
difference, and I think the difference there, Dwayne, is because I see them drive by too, is they're either on the side of the road or they're on the sidewalk, and they get out of the way when people are walking by. They're respectable of
Absolutely.
and other people
Yes.
versus the ones tearing up the park.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
we
And I
follow
just
all
want to
the
make that
traffic
clear
laws.
so that when this starts going through, we don't have Roger Woods complaining, because that's not who we're attacking. We're not attacking those type of people.
And I didn't
know
feel
how
as
they
though
are.
anyone was. I mean, I've
Right.
even been pulled over by the State Highway Patrol on mine.
And
And
the
his
chances you probably
contention
never
was
will.
that it didn't have insurance. It's like, well, actually it does.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've not just the village, which the village has never bothered me on it, but the state highway has. And they said, okay, you're right. You have an insurance card on it. You're fine.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I didn't feel like it was targeting the responsible
Okay.
people, but it does also include
Yeah.
us.
Sure.
There's no question.
Okay, I think the chief has something to say. I think I saw him come on.
Can you guys hear me
Mike?
at all?
Mm-hmm.
And now,
Yes, I can hear you,
Yeah,
Mike.
Chief.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Apparently when the electric went out, it did something to the computer here. So I've been listening to you guys, but I can't get it to let me talk. So, but anyway, just if I could just add to that briefly. Usually the issues we have when it comes to this, believe it or not, are people that are outside of the village coming into the village. We've had Alt Park in particular, where they're coming in from outside the village to ride in Alt Park. We've had a couple complaints over the last year of someone crossing the farm fields and coming in the backside of Johnson Park, back where the old softball diamond used to be, back in that one corner. So it's sporadic that we have an issue down there, but again, it's 2 different items. One is if you're operating a motor vehicle on a street or highway inside the village, there are certain laws that are already written in the ORC and in the codified ordinances that deal with that. The problem is once they're off of the street or the highway, that's where it makes it difficult for us to do a lot with them without having some kind of a tool.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chief.
Well, I got a question, Chief. So you're saying a gator has to have a license plate on it if it's going down 158 or 256 or a side street in?
Well, here's the issue that we've run into with that. We have a form from the state of Ohio that they issued, and it's called a underspeed vehicle inspection form, and it has some other things on it. Several years ago, we used to do inspections on gators, and matter of fact, I did one for a firefighter here in town, and he was able to get plates on his and the whole bit. Roger Wood he has exactly the same gator, and he went to Pickerington up to BMV with the document, which is a state-issued document, and they told him that gators you cannot license them, period, on a street or highway. So I contacted the Highway Patrol. Highway Patrol says they are illegal, other than the ones that are used for. It's like it has to be used in a business setting. For example, you're doing construction, or you're doing farming, or you are involved in oil well. If you're involved in any of those three, then you can put a slow-moving vehicle on it and go from there. The guys that I have seen on these gators as a rule have never been an issue. They follow all the traffic laws. They have the slow moving vehicle on, and the ones I've seen are used. I guess for a better word, I would say that the majority of the time, I'm assuming they're being used for business purposes. So that's not been an issue, but the issue is the state of Ohio now refuses to give these guys any sort of relief as far as being able to license those things, which makes no sense to me why you can't license those, but you can license, matter of fact, you have to license golf carts for them to be on a street or highway. If you don't have it on there, it falls under the same section as a vehicle if you're driving your car with no license plates on it.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Any more discussion on this topic? Okay, we'll have the first reading tonight, and like I said, anybody wants to tweet it or anything, we can add to it. Okay, going to the new business number 2, proposal solution for parking issue located at 206 North Main Street and 208 North Main Street. Okay, I'm going to turn this over to Terry again.
Thank you. Well, before we leave this, Mr. Keller, are you going to sponsor that, the 2020?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yep.
If you remember at the last safety meeting, we had a lady's daughter come forth and ask us to put a handicap parking spot by Flannery's Heating and Cooling, which is a new business in downtown. And we said we couldn't. Our council decided they couldn't, so you asked me to go ahead and call the lady that had applied, and then also call the business. So I have talked to both entities. I talked to the business a couple of times. I talked to the one lady. In the process, I guess there has been some other turmoil in that area based on the fact another renter beside the lady had been parking out back, I guess, in Flannery's parking. There was some heated words. It is just not a good situation over there. Flannery's want to put a hopper in there, which, as you know, will require them a dumpster, which will require a fence. So I was approached by the owner of the rental property, Mike
Schreier.
Schreier, yes.
Schreier.
Yes. And he said that he would be willing to tear down the structure that's in the back of the rental property. He was going to engage Mr. Bach to come and tear it down. And he said it would cost him over like $4,000 to be able to do it. That would allow for his 2 renters to be able to have a parking place. Even though I have been watching and I'm not seeing a lot of congestion I'm in front of the two properties, but mine is just a point in time. It's not like I'm sitting there watching it. But anyhow, I explained to him he would need a demolition permit to be able to tear down the accessory building, and that a demolition permit was $150. He is not willing to pay the $150, and I told him I would come to council and ask council their opinion in order to resolve this issue at the 206 and 208 North Main. If you would want to either reduce the demo permit cost or eliminate the demo permit cost, and then Mr. Schreier would pay the $4,000 or $5,000, whatever it is, to Mock to come in and tear it down. So that's the proposition that's on the table.
Well, I did go around there and drive around the alley and look at it. I know that's an old barn, and I know it's an eyesore, and I didn't know what it's going to cost to tear it down since it's $4,000. I can't believe, $150 is going to kill him, but I know it would help the village because, like I said, it's an eyesore, and it would help with more parking. Of course, I know Mike, and I know everybody on here probably knows Mike, except for a few of you.
I guess
I don't have a problem with him getting away with $150, but it kind of irks me a little bit because I know Mike, that's just it. So, what's the feedback for somebody else?
My
Well,
question.
let me tell you, if we don't waive the fee, he's not going to tear it down.
So my question is A, while we have a handicap parking issue, this ultimately ends up helping that property. But at the same time, are we setting a precedent? The next person that comes in and says, my building's kind of, it could be torn down. And so tell you what, just waive my fee and I'll tear it down for you. Because it's an eyesore. Do we set that dangerous precedent there? We have the fee and the application process for a reason.
It's Wade here. Why don't we just reduce the demolition fee from $150 down to something like 25 or 50?
For everybody?
Yeah.
I think what he brought up with me was that Mox told him that they were able to tear down a building on Rome side that didn't have any utilities to it, and they weren't charged a fee. And so that's kind of where he felt like the utilities kind of changed the situation, like we need to terminate a water line or terminate a sewer line, and the fee made sense. But on a garage with no utilities, it didn't necessarily make any sense to charge a fee. Like, what's the fee for?
But the fee is for zoning, and since then I have did 6 demo permits, and everybody's paid $150 now. If we don't have fees attached to zoning, then it's going to be hard to have zoning because, as you know, zoning comes out of the general fund. And the only revenue stream that we do have for this, and Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, the only revenue stream we do have for zoning are the zoning fees themselves and the contract that we have with Pleasantville, which is supposed to be used for Pleasantville's fees.
That's correct.
So the what Mr. Mock is referring to was a situation that I was in my job for about 2 weeks, and it was a hardship case, which when she came to me, she explained to me what was going on and everything, and I did do it. But since then, I have not did it because of what the mayor has said. Once we do this, this is what happens. Then everybody goes, oh, well, you did it for such and such, you did it for such and such. And I just have to stick to the black and white. Like I tell my planning and zoning now, it has to be in black and white. So I will take responsibility for that first one almost 5 years ago that I waived, only because of the hardship that she presented to me about it. Other than that, all of this, because understand, when someone does a demo permit, it's not like they just do a demo permit and it's over and done with. I have to go out, or my code enforcement person has to go out on different times, or even Tim, he does go out also to do checks, to take pictures. I have a demo right now on South Mill Street that I have been dealing with for over a year. I can't begin to tell you how many times we have had to make a visit to that property, how many times we have sent out letters, and it's just about ready to go back to court. So the fee doesn't necessarily mean that we're just padding our pockets with $150. On that permit, I can tell you, we should have charged $1,500. You know, some of the other permits, you know, have been a little easier. The one we had on North Basel was a hard one also. That even ended up in a stop order. I had to use the police. I mean, there was a whole lot of expenses that we incurred that we had to do. Now, I'm not saying Mike will be like that because I don't get that from Mike. I think Mike will go in. I think they'll get it torn down. I think it'll be nice, but I'm just trying to explain what a zoning permit fee is used for.
Right. And if you know, you can, to me, you can use your best judgment case by case.
Yeah.
Hardship or whatever. This is not a hardship case for one. Number two, he doesn't want to pay Baltimore. That's plain and simple. Mike's made that point very, very clear several times. But I'd also agree that you have to go to South Mill Street because that looks like a dump.
Yes.
And that shouldn't be like that. It should be leveled out. It should be seeded. It should be strawed. And it's not. There's piles of gravel. It's hideous. I feel sorry for the neighbor next door. So
Absolutely.
me, that's patting our pocket, they can say what they want. I'm a firm believer. Yeah, pay $150, be done with it. I don't think we should change it. I don't care who you are. If you have a hardship, that's a total different ball of wax. People have hardship time. You can tell by when you're dealing with a customer if there's a hardship or not. Is the way so you deal
Mike
with those
hasn't claimed
cases.
hardship by any means.
What's that? No,
Mike
right.
hasn't claimed hardship by any means.
And I'm gonna tell you something else. I don't care what Mock says because we've had our dealings with Mock, and Mock didn't do what he said he was gonna do, so he can blame Baltimore all he wants for his issues, but he caused all of his other issues. So to me, I'm a firm believer. If our permit's $150, it's $150. Because I guarantee if I was going to tear something in my house down, I'm going to pay $150. Did the guy at the corner of Kumler and Oak, when the guy tore down his garage, did he pay a fee?
Yes.
Okay, that should have been a hardship. Because I'm telling you what, that poor guy got ramrod by the guy across the street because he didn't want to look at that. You know what? You moved there. You knew what was there when you moved there. And now guess what he did? He sold and moved after he caused this poor guy, even though I'm not saying that barn wasn't a safety issue, because I do agree. But, you know, these need to be case by case. This isn't a hardship area. You know, every time I go up there, I don't see this parking nightmare that there supposedly is. I mean, I don't see it, but, you know, to me, if Mike wants to tear it down, that's great. There's a $150 fee, tear it down. If you don't, go on, leave it alone.
I go by it several times a day, probably half a dozen at least. I've never seen a parking issue, but they claim there is one.
Think about their vans. Their vans are going to be probably gone from 8 to 5. The guy put a furnace in, or an AC unit for me. He was at my house on a Saturday morning from 8 o'clock, and he didn't leave here till 5 o'clock. So their vans during the day is not there. So I mean, and I really think if you treat that guy right, he's going to be a business person. He's going to do the right thing. He's not going to be a hard nose. Now you go ticking people off. Okay. You got to talk to people respectively and ask. You don't just, the public street's a public street. That's the way I look at it.
The other thing to Wade's point that he just made is, remember, council sets the zoning fees. If you think $150 is too much, we can always change that. I can all of these fees I came into, and we only so far have changed the ones for the pool and the fences. I can do a study like I did for the pools and fences and bring it back to council and have them look at it to see if they think 150 is too much.
And that might be.
Well, my only thinking is, if it's a big project like that barn, 150, that's pretty cheap. If it's a garage, something small, I can see maybe $25, $50. Because you're not going to get a lot of fencing.
Yeah.
So why don't we call the middle ground, and the $150 fee stays in place? Terry can do her benchmarking and bring it back. And if we decide to adjust the fee down, we can refund Mike the difference between the current price and the new price.
There's quite a few buildings in town. It'd be really nice for everybody if they got torn down.
And I don't disagree with you there. I see a lot of them. And I'm fine with there being, say, 2 or 3 levels. I'm not against that.
Well,
And I'm not saying we got to charge, like you said, you got someone who wants to tear down a small garage, $150. Okay. Here's the problem. If you have to visit that thing 2 or 3 times, make sure they got rid of their debris, make sure they leveled it properly, make sure they cleaned it up properly, there's a cost to that. So I don't have a problem if there's, say, 2 or 3 different levels. Because you get to a big school, tearing a school down, that's a big task there versus the garage.
I have the feeling Terry's benchmarking is going to find that a lot of places set fees based on square footage of the building coming down.
If they don't, it's a good idea.
Well, and
So-
some of this stuff on Mill Street sounds like it ought to be fines for lack of maintenance after the fact too, not necessarily connected to the demolition.
You know, like Pickerington, accessory buildings larger than 200 feet is $85.
There you go.
You know, a demolition permit, $65. And I'm guessing I'm not sure how, if that goes up to a certain 75 an hour, and there's more to it. You'd have to really read it to, get all the depth and make sure we don't miss anything. So I have no problem looking into it. That's up to you guys too, but I have no problem looking at it, maybe have a couple different tiers, commercial versus residential, whatever, however you want to do that.
Let me see. Is that on the agenda for tonight?
I don't.
No. Okay. So I didn't know. I didn't think it was north. So why don't we just
Well-
keep this on the committee, and we'll hit it again next month.
But we just need to tell Mr. Mike what we're going to do. So I need a motion if we're going to waive it, a motion if we're going to reduce it, and if we're not going to do anything, I just need to call him and tell him we're not going to do anything.
Hey, Terry,
Yes?
when you look up, like if you look at Pickerington's, I just scrolling down through some more, and it says demolition, 101 to 5,000 square feet is $100. 5,001 to 10,000 is $150, and each additional square foot, 10,000 square feet, is an additional $100.
Yeah, I think we need to go on a scale like that.
Yeah, I agree. And that would make it a little more. We could start a little lower,
Rational.
but you get to a school building where they're tearing something down, you're into a lot more work and paperwork. So
Well, do we want to do a reduced fee to Mike then?
Well, why don't we stick with like we've done when we've done reduced fees in the past when we've evaluated them. The fee
Okay.
is what it is right now. And then if after evaluation, the fee for that size of building would be reduced, we refund him the difference. If for whatever reason it ends up being more expensive, we're not going to charge him the increased cost. That way, at most, it's 150. And if council then lowers it based on the benchmarking, he gets something back.
Okay.
and just tell him that's what we're doing. We're going to look at it and we'll go from there.
All right.
Well, if you need a motion, Terry, so you can tell Mike, I will put that in a motion that he pays $150. If we decide to change the fees to lower, he will get money back.
Hey, Chuck,
Yes,
I have
I
a
need a
question.
second. Okay. Well, let's get a second before we discuss the motion, because we do have a motion. Do I hear a second from Wade or Rick?
Yeah, wait, I'll second that.
Okay, now Mike, you can discuss it.
How is it written in what we got now? Is it the landowner that pays for the demolition fee or the company that's going to tear it down?
I don't know that it would matter.
Yeah,
It's
it
just-
doesn't.
it runs with the property, and that would be the contract between the owner
Yeah.
and whoever's doing it.
Yeah, but if Mr. Mock is going to make $4,000 or $5,000, or even if he's going to make $400, I think he ought to pay the $150 to tear it down.
Well, I think that's between him and Mike, Ken.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
think so.
them.
All I'm going to say is you could do it that way, but Schreier's still going to pay the cost. So it doesn't matter how it works. It all
Yep.
trickles downstream. So no matter how you look at it, whether Mike pays it or or mock pays it. The guy paying the bill is going to pay the cost, period.
Yep.
I don't think they're going that way.
I bet they will.
I doubt it.
Okay, any more discussion on the motion?
I gotta
Hearing none. Roll call, Brian?
Chuck,
Yes.
Osgray,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, Terry, you can tell him that and we'll go
Okay,
from there in.
thank you.
Hey, Chuck,
Yes,
I know you said you were going to sponsor that ordinance on the park fees, but I don't have in my notes that you had a motion to take it to council so that it would come out of committee.
oh, okay, you mean the one we're just discussing on? Oh, you're talking about the ATV?
The 8TV. You said you would sponsor it.
Yeah, I'm
but I
gonna sponsor and I'll take that to council.
Okay, I didn't hear a motion and a vote on it.
I thought we did, didn't we?
no, you didn't, Chuck.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we take the ATV vehicle and that's what we're talking, take it to council in.
Now, just wait here.
I
I'll
hear a
second that.
second.
Yeah, I'll second
All
that.
right, any discussion on it? Roll call there, Brian.
Keller,
Yes.
Osgray,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Okay, that goes to council tonight, Em.
That's twice you did that.
Okay, anything else on the new business? Anybody have anything? Okay, and hearing none. Next meeting will be August the 10th right after finance meeting. Okay, the rules meeting is over at 7:28.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chuck. All right, everyone, we got about 2 minutes then until council will start. So, be right back.
See the number is for tearing them down, Terry.
I'm sorry, please?
Have that ordinance at hand or whatever it is to tear those buildings down.
For Mr. Schrader or Schrader?
Or for Schreiber, yes.
No, I don't have anything on that yet. He was just asking.
Okay. How about a demolition ordinance then?
Well, we have a demolition through the planning and zoning rules and regulations, so it is in and of itself an ordinance. So what I'll do is I'll just look at what everything else is and then bring it back to council as far as price wise.
All right. This is a joke. Goodbye.
Hey, Jeff, can you hear us?
Yes.
All right. Hey, we can hear
Hey,
you.
Jeff.
Good. Hi.
Hey. All right. And so is everyone still on here? I want to give everybody a chance to step away before we start council and head back.
Yeah, Wade's still here.
All right. Dwayne's still there, Mike's there, Rick's there. All right. So then it's 7:32 and we will 13th order and we'll stand and start tonight with prayer as usual. All right. Who art in heaven?
Hallowed be thy name. Kingdom come,
Thy will be
Thy
done
will be
on earth.
on our sins.
done.
Give us
Give us this day
Daily bread. Please forgive those who trespass against us, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the power, and the
power, glory forever. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To
to the
the
flag
flag of the United States of America,
So,
Republic
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
under
indivisible,
and
with liberty, and justice for all.
for all. All right. Roll call.
Cosgray,
Present.
Foreman,
Present.
Hamilton,
present.
Atkinson is absent. Keller? Chuck? Chuck
there.
Yeah, I'm here. I forgot that I had mute on. I'm present.
And Moeller?
Present.
All right. We've got 5, so we can have a meeting. First agenda item tonight is the minutes of June 22nd.
Yeah, Wade here. I read through the meeting minutes. I didn't see anything out of order. I move that we approve the meeting minutes as recorded.
Foreman seconds.
Any discussion on minutes? Roll call.
Well, I didn't get a cut.
Roll call, Brian.
Okay, Cosgray,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Abstained. I don't have a copy.
Keller,
Yes.
Moeller,
Yes.
Did you get 4, Brian?
what's that?
Did you get 4?
I got 4, yes.
All right, then minutes will be approved as written. Moving on for tonight's agenda, there are a couple of amendments. For 2020-17, that's actually removing a handicap parking spot. I don't know that we sent that through committee tonight, but we need a sponsor for that one.
It went through safety committee last time.
Oh, that was through safety?
Yes.
All right.
Mayor, I thought that original ordinance had language in it which indicated that it expired automatically on the death of the person that was assigned to, or that it fell into disuse.
Okay, so we don't need that one on a reading, or?
No, I mean, if it's one to terminate the use and the language was in the original ordinance indicating that it would terminate once it fell into disuse, we need an ordinance for that.
Okay. So this
I
is
did
the one on-
explain to the resident that it only was valid for the period of time that her uncle was still living there.
But
So we can-
Terry, just for clarification, are we talking about which spot are we talking about?
Yes,
North
sir.
Yan- Okay, but is that the one one is terminating or the one we're just now
No,
established?
no, that was the one to establish that we did at safety last.
Okay. Well, the ordinance is on the agenda for the one that we're establishing, which is at 227 North Yenst Street.
Yes.
So, all right. I didn't mean to confuse anything. I thought you were talking about one that you were
Oh.
terminating.
Nope. This
No,
one
I
just-
think we came to the conclusion, we just go get the sign and it's over.
Okay.
Okay.
So this one needs a sponsor then from safety because it went through.
Right.
Who can I put? Wade, can you sponsor this one?
I think that was on safety.
Oh. 'Cause
Okay,
I
Mr.
think,
Hamilton, aren't you on safety?
Hell, put me as a sponsor.
okay.
Yeah, I can add it too. I'm not on a committee, but I can do it too.
Christmas.
Okay. Thanks, Wayne.
I'll do it. Jiminy Christmas.
All right. 2020-17 gets a sponsor of Moeller. 2020-18 amended to also include a sponsor of Moeller. 2020-19 will be amended to add a sponsor of Keller. And then 2020-20, which is a resolution declaring the necessity to submit to the electors of the Village of Baltimore at the general election an ordinance to issue bonds for construction, repair, and maintenance of water infrastructure. That ordinance will be added. Sponsor of Moeller. And then that will be it for the amendments. And
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as amended.
all right,
I'll second it.
motion and second. Any further discussion? I'll just note discussion for Jeff's notes because he did prepare 2020-21 that finance tabled that and did not send that ordinance on to council at this time.
Okay. And which one is that?
2020-21
I know,
That was
but,
That
Go
was
ahead.
the advisory
advisory.
issue.
okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep. All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Cosgray,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Hamilton. Hamilton,
No.
was that a no?
That's a,
Did he say yes or no?
He said no.
Okay. Hank, not Hank, Keller,
Yes.
Moeller.
Yes.
All right, by a vote of 4-1, the agenda will be amended and approved. Moving on, visitors. I didn't receive any emails for public comment, though I'll talk about in my report a conversation I did have with a resident, but hadn't received any emails as of recently for public comment. So we will move on to village administration reports, my reports. We talked a lot. I think everybody was there at finance. We talked about the dip in the RETA numbers. I want to make sure we keep an eye on that because some of the other businesses are starting to report more long-term recession measures indicating that they don't expect to bring some people back. So that could affect us a little more long-term than we had anticipated. So we'll just keep an eye on that in finance. Speaking of, everyone remember your RETA tax filings are due July 15th, this Wednesday. So we'll see in August finance how that comes out if we start to get those distributions. Actually, Brian, will, after the 15th, before the next finance meeting, will RETA be able to tell us, just give us general numbers and stuff like that based on the filings they've received, or will that be too early?
I can check. I can reach out to him. I can reach out to him. That one guy, I got an email from him a month ago. He said he's like our liaison or whatever. He'd be willing to appear or not, well, not appear, but meet with council and get a feel of what's going on. If I can do that, if we could do that.
I mean, yeah, even if they can just give us some numbers, you know, they received 85% of the expected filings that they expected, and you know, here's what they anticipate distributions for the rest of the year to look like, or something like that. Just basic stuff, so we can start to, because we're going to have to start actually putting together a budget. So it'd be nice to know what we're going to be able to expect to see the rest of this year and into next.
Okay, I'll reach out to him and see what, because I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'll reach out to him.
Okay, appreciate it. It's 7:42, so the school board is meeting right now to try to figure out what happens with school next year. I know we don't have much to do with that, but I get questions all the time about school stuff, so I just thought I'd remind everybody, for those that don't have kids in school, they have a couple of options on the table for how to resume.
Put the kids in school.
So, ordinance 2020-20, it was added tonight. Everyone was there at finance. That's the one to put a bond issue on, to issue bonds, which then get assessed towards property tax to do the water infrastructure repair. Jeff, we amended that in finance to include an interest rate equal to the government T-bill rate today. That way we have the ratings. And hopefully that'll be for the auditor. Last week, I got Terry will hit on them. We got a lot of projects starting soon. So I've already talked to Terry once about communications when we talk about road closures and when they do Street and Holder Road and no parkings on sides of the streets. And then Water Street's going to start. So it's going to get busy here real soon, real quick. And then the last thing I have is I am drafting a letter to Senators Brown and Pittman because the Invest in America Act passed the U.S. House of Representatives, but it does absolutely squat for places like us. It was 100% road repair and stormwater runoff of roads, and why we all need roads. In my letter right now, I wanted to change it a little bit because I basically said, if you want to invest in America, then let's invest in something that people need, such as our water. So I hope to finish that language up tomorrow or Wednesday and get that out to them before the Senate starts to get the $1.5 trillion or whatever it is they passed won't do anything for us. It might give us more money to do a few roads, but as we always say, what does it do to repave the road if we just got to tear it up to fix the water? So that's my report for now. Anybody got any questions for me? All right, we have none. Terry, you're up.
Okay, so you have my report in front of you. I'm just going to go over the highlights. The membranes are doing great. As you can see, I've listed Brad's tentative preventive maintenance, what he's doing to make sure that we're on top of keeping those membranes operating at the highest efficiency possible. So far, we have not ran into any issues. Is doing great. Still, the paper mill discharge project is still in the mill side. They're still working on their building permit. The South Company lift station, BSI Engineering came in last week and they started working with Mr. Little. They are moving right along on the project as they promised. They are supposed to get back to me the percentage of a discount that we may see because we took all three phases at once instead of going phase by phase. I did sign the paperwork for the OPWC project last week and sent that off to Abby, who's our District 17 representative. Mike Crane is working on the bid package now. That should be ready. I would anticipate by the end of the week, first of next week, to get that out. So that's moving right along. At this point, I wanted to also talk, if nobody has had a chance to go down Water Street, you will notice that all of the HMH trailers and tractors are now gone. The chief helped me last week. We had sent them a notice. We had given them an extension. They were still dragging their feet, so the chief was able to put heads up red stickers on all the vehicles. And this morning when I came into work, they were towing away the last vehicle. So that parking lot is now all cleaned out. So thanks, chief, for helping me with that. You have below you on the OPWC Water Street project, the tentative timeline for that. All of the projects that I'm presenting to you, I'm going to make sure you have a timeline so you know step by step is what is happening. Moving on to the Holder Road project, you can see the timeline is there. They're running a little bit behind. The documents have already been signed, but we have not got any input back on the exact start time. I challenged Tim today because the Schilling and Company are doing both the resurfacing of Market Street and the Holder Road project. I'd like to see if they're going to do that back to back or how they're going to do that so that we can tell the residents, because a lot of people are asking about that. Moving on to the Market repave or the 256 that ODOT is doing. Signs are now going up. Last week they did mark the payment. I'm getting a lot of phone calls, and probably we'll work on something, Mayor, and send it off to you tomorrow. Some of the questions are, there are signs on Washington Street and some of the side streets. And the explanation is any exit and exit onto entrance onto Market, not exit, but entrance onto Market Street, those signs will have a heads up that says there's work. So as you drive down Washington, you're going to see a lot of ODOT signs. So they're moving right along with this project. So more to come on that. We did work last Thursday night late and finished the manhole in front of Schaffner's that was buried in 11 inches of pavement. So the guys worked until about 4:30 in the morning to get that finished. So that's done. We are just waiting on a couple of, we want to get those hot taps installed on Main and Washington. Market, that should be Market in Washington before the project starts. So I look for those hot taps to be in end of this week, next week. Tim was going to check on them today. He still hadn't heard from Stillion. So we'll get those in as fast as possible. So then all of the work that we, the village, has to do on Market Street before the repave will be completed. Moving on to, we're trying to patch holes as we go. I know we're getting a lot of complaints. I know our streets are in terrible shape, but we're trying to do as much as we can. We did South Main Street several times where we've had that water break. So we're going to have to just saw cut that and lay asphalt down and roll it in. It's just every fix that we have did because of the high volume of traffic is just opening back up those spots. So we'll be doing some work on South Main Street more so to try to patch those areas. We're still waiting on the PTI, hearing back from that for the Westwood Waterline project. Like the mayor says, once we get going, that's going to be, we've got a lot of projects on our plate moving along. Jumping down to the other projects, Dollar General, I got notification. I just forwarded that to you, Jeff, and I'll let you talk to that more. But they did get their building permit approved today. So I'll let Jeff talk more about General Dollar.
Sure. The current owner of that, Kay Annette Hammer, has completed the lot split process, and she's also signed off on the annexation documents needed to start the process of annexing to the village. Those have been submitted to the county commissioners, and late last week I received some correspondence from the county commissioners asking for some corrected information by the surveyor. That's been provided to the property owner, and I anticipate having those corrections made at the end of this week, and that updated information will be submitted again to the county commissioners, and they'll probably set that for a hearing sometime within 30 days. So the property hasn't changed hands yet, hasn't changed ownership. It's still owned by Mrs. Hammer, but she wants to complete the annexation process. And then once that's completed, she intends to transfer it to the new owner who will be moving forward with the construction project. That's all I have on that.
So that's my report. Does anybody have any questions for me?
The only question I have on 256, where they've got all the white marks, is that where is that stuff we have to do, tear out repairs, or is that what they're doing?
They'll be doing that.
Okay. And what does like the DHP, what's the words mean, or the initials?
Well, the only initial I know is, well, now you made me forget it.
I see one that says DNP, and I thought, what does that mean?
I don't know, but I'll find out and send it out to everybody. I didn't know there were initials on there. I thought they were just circling it, but when I drove up today, I could see the initials. I found out.
Yeah, there's several ones, and I just was curious what they meant.
There's a couple of those DNPs down by my house, and I was wondering what they meant as well.
I thought it said do not pave, so that's what I was thinking.
I thought
I
it said
hope
no
not.
parking.
They come all down South High Street, made them all.
Yeah.
I was interested.
I've got two questions. One, when I was out watching the guys do the membrane replacement, the overhead crane had a issue, and I know they were calling the guy to come back out and look at it. Did he ever come back out, and what was that issue? Because it wasn't lifting it, and I think they determined it was stuck.
Yeah.
So did the guy come back out and just make sure nothing?
Yes, and I think a lot of that also was the weight of the membranes with all of the 10-year waste on it also. And it definitely was the overweight issue. And then also the DP is do not pass. So I do know that written on the road.
Gotcha.
So that must be where they're going to set up their traffic control.
Signage.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
That makes sense. Okay.
All right, and then Terry, my second question is I know HMH moved all of their trucks, but when I was driving down Market Street today, I noticed that their sign at the bottom of 600 West Market, where their office was, has also been removed. Did they move their operations completely out of the village at this point?
I believe they did, yes.
Yes, they did.
Okay. They
I
moved out.
rekeyed the locks this week.
Well, the thing of it is that this is what I didn't know, and I guess the gentleman from the mill told me that most of the trucks that were sitting there in that parking area weren't even operational. They had to have them towed. So they were using that parking lot just to keep their non-functioning trucks free, basically. So.
So when they came in and wanted to change the zoning on one of the things, and that obviously didn't fly, but we asked them to contact us, and we reached out to them to help them find a place to stay in the village. And then when we were doing the semi-truck stuff as well, you sent them a letter. Have we ever had contact with them about being able to help them to find a place to stay here, or?
No, they don't return my calls. And the one person that did call me on this letter, because then I ended up sending them a letter. I've left several messages at the office, and I did give the owner my card and, told him, please call me at any time with my cell phone on it. But the person that called me was Sarah, who was just asking for the extension because they had found some place to move the trailers. So she really was just the coordinator of getting the trucks from point A to point B.
Okay.
So.
I was told they moved to Bryce.
Oh, okay. There
I
you
know
go.
some of their trucks are sitting out on 250 just outside the village.
DePaulo's land out there. There's some out there, yeah. But I was told they moved to Bryce. I don't know firsthand where it's at, but that's what I was told by their former landlord.
Okay. All right. Those were the only questions I had. Does anybody have anything?
I have two. Okay, my first question is, there's a guy that put a shed up on the end of Johnson Street there beside the park. I just wonder if he got a permit or anything.
I will have to look at that. On where,
Yeah, if you go down, if you go down Johnson Street, go east and right there be at the end of Johnson Street there at the park, there's a new shed. He was doing it this weekend. Also, the traffic light at Schaffner's Ice Cream, isn't that supposed to be on not on a timer, but when you pull up to it from the schoolhouse, it's supposed to kick. I know there for a while, it was going off and on the whole time this past week.
yes, there was a relay or a loop who was out. So last Thursday night, when they were working on the sewer manhole cover, Mr. Little also worked on the light, and that is functional now.
Okay.
He had to order parts for it.
Okay, that's all I had.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Hearing none, we'll move on. Fiscal Officer Brian.
I don't have anything else to add tonight.
All right. Jeff.
Well, all of the legislation, including the amended legislation, has been through committee. I do have a question, though, regarding ordinance 2020-20 and the language regarding the government T-bill rate. That's usually calculated on a periodic basis. So it's 8 weeks, 13 weeks, 26 weeks. So I'm just wondering what rate council wants to tie that to. For example, the 26 week T-bill bank discount rate is at 0.15% currently. So, and the 3-month Treasury bill rate can range from 0.09% to 0.17%. So I just need clarification in order to amend that on whether council wants to tie it to a very specific rate or just to indicate, you know, a 3-month rate, a 6-month rate, that sort of thing.
Well, since we're talking about a 30-year, what's the 10-year rate?
What's the what? I'm sorry.
10-year rate.
I'd have to look back at the history on that. I don't know offhand. I was just looking at the current rates, but I can easily look that up as far as that goes. So
when we get to that ordinance, we'll have some more discussion to clarify the interest rate. Okay.
Yeah. So how does council want to amend that for consideration in case they wanted to pass that tonight, though? That was my question. So.
Yeah. That's something we can move on while we get to ordinances and then do it in discussion.
Sure.
Okay.
And then that's all I have right now. So.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let's move on. Finance.
Okay, we met tonight. Everybody's pretty much there. We all know what we're talking about. For the repair for the water line and that kind of stuff. I don't know that there's really anything else to re-explain what we've already talked about. So the next meeting would be August 10th. Yeah, August 10th at 6 o'clock.
All right. You might as well keep on going because I think service is next there.
Service, we hadn't met since the last meeting. There's really nothing new to bring up. So our next meeting will be the 27th of July, and I will be on vacation. I will not be around. Just so everybody knows. And it's at 6 o'clock.
All right. Enjoy your vacation.
Whoever wants to enjoy taking my spot, knock yourself out.
Fair enough.
Without you.
What's that?
I said, I'm pretty sure we can get through it without you.
Ooh, I'm a little sketchy on that. This is not the worst go out in the courts on that one.
Well, Dwayne, why don't you provide contact information and then we'll call you. And,
Yeah, you got my phone number. Go ahead and call me. I'll tell you. You'll see if I answer.
We have shown that video works. We could just zoom you in.
Oh, I'm sure you can, but I may not be any way, shape, or form willing to talk.
Fair enough. All right, safety.
Well, I'd love to tell you when the next meeting is, but the wife took off with my briefcase.
So it'll be July 27th.
27th? Thank you.
Yep. All right. Rules.
Okay, Mayor, we had a meeting tonight. We had two issues on the agenda. The first one was the to amend Chapter 446.03 ATV vehicles and other like vehicles on village property and parks. A lot of discussion. We're going to have a first reading on the ordinance tonight. This way it gives more people in the public to come forward and if they want to add anything or treat it. So, like I said, it'll be on the first reading tonight. The second issue tonight on new business was the property on 206 North Main and 208 North Main. When I first read that when Terry sent me the email, I kind of thought, well, yeah, let's clean up a place and don't charge anybody. Then I got thinking while we had all this discussion, I said, you know what? They're going to fix the water line clear on the west side of town, and it might cost the village. That's not going to help me a bit. But I'm a village, resident. I think I should just pay like the rest of everybody. So the more I heard people talking tonight, the motion was made to have Terry talk to Mike Schreier, charge him $150 if he wants, tear it down. And if in the meantime, if we come up with a prorated price or fee to tear down buildings, then if it's less than $150, we're reimbursing for the difference. And the motion was carried 2-1. So that's all I have, Mayor.
All right. Thank you. So any questions for rules? All right. Hear none. Chief, Police Department report.
Thanks, Mayor. We'll start out with, we had a instance that resulted in a vehicle pursuit. It started out as a stalking, and the person it was discovered they had felony warrants. When our officer initially got on the scene, the guy was trying to leave. He did pull over. He let the officer get out of the car, and then he took off, went eastbound on 256. And as they approached 37, he was driving extremely reckless, and our officer called off the pursuit with the other cars. He told him it was just too dangerous. But we had a good name on the guy. We got an address. We got him arrested down in Bremen. We've charged him with felony pursuit because of the fact that there were so many people out on the street and that he was almost to 90 miles an hour as he was still inside the village, heading out by Holder Road. So we think that's going to be a good charge, get this guy off the street for a while. You may know we had a bank robbery at the People's Bank. We were fortunate we got involved with that very quickly. We've tied him to numerous other bank robberies here in Ohio and in a neighboring state. Once we did that, we were able to contact the FBI, and they were then very interested in getting involved. So we're working with them. We have some real good intel, and we really believe that we're going to come to a successful conclusion with that. We're doing okay on our personal protection equipment. Matter of fact, the last time that they contacted us for an order, we had enough that we did not have to order anymore. So that was good. We've alerted all the officers, made sure they're aware of this continuing changing of how we're doing responses. Ultimately, it comes down to if they're in the cruiser or they're out by themselves somewhere, it's their call if they want to wear something. If they're out of the car going into a building, whether it's a residence, business, whatever, then they have to wear a mask. Made an arrest on a young lady who has been wandering late in the evening hours in the alleys around town, We discovered she did have a warrant. We were able to locate her and get her arrested and off the street. She's been an ongoing issue for us. Let's see. Been towing cars, abandoned vehicles, or vehicles that have been parked for an inordinate amount of time. We towed a couple off of Dorchester and got those out of there. They've been an ongoing issue for us. We had a situation with a person who showed up at an ex-girlfriend's house on Fairview, or apartment on Fairview, attempted to force his way in. When he couldn't get in, he started trying to force other residences, front or back doors. It turned into an ongoing issue. Ultimately, we got him arrested it was pushing 5 o'clock in the morning. We finally got him located, and we got him arrested and charged, and he went to jail where he also had warrants out of another agency, so that worked out pretty well to get him taken care of. We got some training that's upcoming. We really are behind on our training, mostly because OPATA, that does all the police training, has been shut down and has not been offering any of the training that we need. So we're gonna do as much as we can in house. There's only 1 or 2 things that we need to do to get that taken care of. We ordered the helmets. Needless to say, it takes a while to get them. They're on back order, but they gave us a much better rate on them of what they originally quoted, so we were happy with that. And finally, on our AED, our PowerHeart AED G3, as you may remember, we got that for free back in the day on a grant, and the battery is now no good. It can't be recharged or whatever, so we're going to have to order a battery. Those batteries are well over $300, and but we discovered that the hospital has a connection where they can get them cheaper, and so we're going to go through them to get the battery for the AED. I think it's important to have these AEDs available. I've personally seen 3 saves with these things. When you need it, you need it. And I would suggest that one of the things the council may want to look at, as time and money allows, would be to get one, for example, at some other locations here in town, probably service department, and one at, the one service department probably should travel with them in case they have an electrical shock or whatever, and then one at City Hall. The training is really, really simple. The new ones, you basically hook them up, push a button, it does everything by itself, but just something for council to consider. And I think that's all I have right now.
All right. Hey, Chief, on the training, if you guys run into a pinch on your legal training, let me know. I've got a couple 1 hour that meet the OPATA certifications I've done in other departments. We can do dog sniffs or OVI updates or something to do the legal updates to get that.
Well, I truly appreciate that you're offering that, because you were on my list.
Free help.
Yeah.
Yep.
2 things. Deskins called me. I've got my witness statement ready for the high-speed chase in front of my house last night. And I know I haven't talked to you since then. There was a call for service on a neighbor dispute. I talked to one of those neighbors tonight, and she just asked that we do a report as opposed to just a call for service screen. So if you get a little bit of time in the next couple of days to just throw that report together about going out there, that way it's logged on a report instead of a call for service. They just asked for that.
Okay, you're talking about what, the one that generated the pursuit?
No. On the neighbor dispute with the radio incident.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. That's no problem. We can certainly do that. I'm not sure that we don't already have a report on it, but I'll check that.
Okay, I wasn't sure because I know in other places I'm at, disputes like that where there's nothing further action taken. It's usually just the call for service screen notations.
I'll check that, and if we do not have it, I'll generate one, and if we do have it, I'll forward that to you so you have it.
All right, appreciate it.
Thank
Anybody else
you.
got anything for the chief?
I got a question for you, Mayor.
Yeah.
Was if I heard him right, the man in the pursuit was the one that orchestrated was part of the People's Bank robbery?
No. He had gone to an apartment on West Market where an ex-girlfriend lived. She had moved several times to try to get away from him. And he had found out somehow and began stalking her there. So she called in a complaint. He was gone upon our arrival, and our officers kind of set on it. Sure enough, he comes back, and then he apparently knew, obviously, that he had a felony warrant, and that's why he ended up taking off.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
So I had one.
All right. Hearing none, we'll move on. Dwayne, Fireboard.
Sorry about that. I had to unmute it. I was not at the last meeting. I did forward them to Terry. I asked her to send them out when she gets a second. I'm a little late, so I apologize in getting those out. I'm kind of looking at them real quick just to see. We talked about the chief's vehicle. We did meet the other night because we had budget, our liar's budget, just like what we have to do to get it submitted. And we met the other night. We're going to put the chief's vehicle, the old chief's vehicle, in Gov Deals and sell it that way. Trying to think what else. Put some new doors on the station. Got some doors that are original that are falling apart that we're doing those. We're going to put some new flooring in the meeting room. But other than that, when you get them, if you read anything and you're not sure what's going on, don't hesitate to call me, email me, whatever. But so we just had a meeting. Our meeting would have been next week, but we moved it up a week because of the time-sensitive date for the budget purposes. So we won't meet again until August. August. It would be August the 16th at station. I'm sorry, wrong date, wrong month. August the 20th at station 610, 6:30.
All right.
Yeah, we did reappoint. We did reappoint. We had one vacancy coming up. That would have been the seat that Raina DeFrisch is on, and we did reappoint him to that seat. He was willing to do it again, so we put him back in that same seat.
Cool. All right. Any questions for Fireboard? All right. Hearing none. Planning and zoning. We're trying to find a place to have a meeting because we have a quick meeting on a couple of variances, and one of them we expect some people to show up at, and we want to make sure that, especially now that Fairfield County is one of those red counties, that we can have the social distancing and do it with our I don't know how much longer we can delay those, Terry. I guess at some point, if we can't have a meeting, we might just have to open up a Zoom meeting like this for the public hearing portion and go with it. Because I think we can have up to 100 people on here, so we might just have to do that. So that's kind of where we're at on that. Our next meeting's set
August 13th.
August 13th. So
Okay.
well, hopefully we'll know more at the next council meeting.
There we go.
So, questions for planning and zoning? All right, tree commission.
We had a meeting last Thursday night. One of the biggest things that we talked about is the Bartlett pears along East Market Street. Tim had called out last Wednesday night, or you might say morning, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. One of the branches had fallen down. Those Bartlett pear trees are not really very robust trees, and we're having a lot of issues with them. So the tree commission is going to review the status of those and as far as what Steve thinks we should do, either replace them, remove them. The other thing I wanted to point out is that both on the mayor's Facebook page, as on the website, AEP is coming through with their yearly maintenance, cut down trees, trim off trees, etc. So we'll be seeing a lot of movement when it comes to trees. A lot of that will be AEP. So our next meeting for trees will then be in August. Date to be determined, because I don't know what that date is. I think it's the 13th, to tell you the truth. August 13th, next tree meeting, sorry.
All
And
right.
what type of trees were you talking about in the very first part of your report?
They're Bartlett pears.
Bartlett or Bradford?
Yeah, that's it, Bradford.
Bradford? Okay. And that's what I thought you meant, but I want to make, yeah, those are real soft.
But, no, that's not it. Yeah, Bradford pears are really bad, and we keep losing them. So
Okay,
thank you, Dwayne, for correcting me.
I got you.
Thanks.
All right. Any other questions for trees? All right. Records Commission. We haven't had a meeting in a while because, well, Brian and Barb need to be in the office to go through and do the schedules. The distribution schedule together. So it'll happen at some point.
Yeah.
Not on the list, but is there a Parks meeting since the last council meeting to update on anything?
No, that will be at the next meeting, the next council meeting. Remember, we were kind of, because we're redundant, you know,
Right.
So the parks will be on the next meeting.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Thank you.
Any motions at this time? All right. Then we'll move on to ordinances and resolutions. The first one tonight is ordinance 2020-17, which is an ordinance amending section 452.2 handicap parking spaces of the Baltimore codified ordinances and amending the traffic control map and the declaration of emergency. Sponsor on this one is Mueller.
Okay. So this is just the normal thing that we do off and on when we got someone who requests one of these due to a family member or whatever else. And does this have language? So yeah, okay. That if it is no longer needed, automatically removed, so we don't have to worry about that. So if anybody doesn't have any questions on it, I would like to suspend the 3 reading rule and declare this an emergency.
I'll second it.
All right, motion and second to suspend 3 reading. No debate on that. Roll call.
Let's see, Bowler,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
okay, and Cosgray,
Yes.
Okay.
All right, 5-0, 3 readings suspended.
Okay. I'd like to motion that we adopt ordinance 2017.
All right, motion and second to adopt this ordinance. Discussion on it. Hearing none, roll call.
Cosgray,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
Bowler,
Yes.
All right, ordinance 2020-17 will be adopted.
Thank
Moving
you.
on. Resolution 2020-18, a resolution to adopt the 2021 tax budget and the declaration of an emergency. Sponsor is Mueller.
Okay, we do this every year. It's the same old, same old. It's just our budget. Brian's got it down just like we do at the firehouse. It's down to a percentage of what you look at what you've got, what you spent, and all this other numbers and projections and all that. So Brian pretty well explained it. So I'd like to suspend the 3 reading rule and declare this an emergency due to it's time sensitive.
Second.
Motion and second, suspend 3 reading. No discussion on that motion. Roll call.
Cosgray,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
Bowler,
Yes.
All right, 3 readings suspended.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt ordinance resolution 2020-18.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion on the motion to adopt this resolution. Hearing no further, other than I'll note that it did go through finance earlier tonight.
Yep.
Hearing no other, roll call.
Kohler,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Cosgrave.
Yes.
All right, resolution 2020-18 will be adopted. Moving on, ordinance 2020-19, an ordinance amending chapter 446.03 of the Baltimore Codified Ordinances, Traffic Code, Code Enforcement, Prohibited Operations to prohibit vehicle traffic in village parks and on other village property. Sponsor on this one is Keller.
Okay, Mayor, this was in committee tonight with a lot of discussion. We're going to leave it on for the second reading, so anybody like, tweet it a little bit, or the public in the village might want to have comments. In the meantime, hope the chief finds somebody and get them, so it will go to the second reading.
All right, and we were going to add this to the safety agenda too, just in case we had comments, so that it goes through a second one, correct?
Okay.
All right. So 2020-19 will be on first, second reading at the next meeting, July 27th. Moving on, ordinance 2020-20, which is a resolution declaring the necessity to submit to the electors of the Village of Baltimore at the general election to be held November 2020 bonds for the construction, repair, and maintenance of water infrastructure. Sponsor is Moeller. And as Jeff brought up, we got to clarify our interest rate once we get into a discussion on it.
You want me, or is just going to say?
No, go ahead, Dwayne.
Okay. So this is we brought this up to committee, and this is going for to be looked at. This is just for getting the I'm trying to think of the right word off the top of my head. I lost my train of thought. What the millage would be for this. So it would be based off your property value. This would be for, shall I say, instant gratification on being able to do this water lines now instead of stretching it out 10 years. Jeff, you got anything else to add to that?
Yes, while everybody's been talking, I looked online, and the 10-year T-bill rate is 0.65%, 20-year T-bill rate is 1.12%, and the current 30-year T-bill rate is 1.33%. Since we're looking at a project that would finance this for 30 years, my recommendation would be that council go with the 1.33% rate. So that's all I have to add on that.
So Jeff, is that so? The 1.33%. That's the millage. So how does that calculate out to what it's going to cost per homeowner, based off their property value?
Mayor, I'll defer to you on that.
So
I don't know how those numbers. I get messed up on those. I'm just curious.
So what'll happen is, so right now, if someone buys a T-note for 30 years, it gets returned after those 30 years at 1.33%. That's their interest return on it. And in that ordinance, I put in 30 years because I figured $3 million amortized over 30 years makes it a lot less to have to apply onto. If council wants to amend that to 10 years, we could do that, but it reduces the interest rate, but it increases the cost because we got to pay that $3 million back in 10 years instead of 30.
Okay.
So what happens is this goes to the auditor. The auditor says, okay, $3 million at this interest rate. So over the 30 years, this is how much you have to pay back. And then they do their calculation to apportion that to the current taxable, tax assessed property valuation in the village. And then they give us a number that says to issue bonds for $3 million for 30 years at 1.33%. This is how much millage you have to include onto each taxable dollar of property in the village.
10-year was at 0.65?
10-year was, I think, yeah. Is that right? I was looking at the Treasury schedule.
Yes, 10 years, 0.65.
That's about half. And that number divided over the number of properties in the town, I don't think we're looking at that big of a millage, really. I think it's going to be actually incredibly small.
And that was my question, because I'm just curious. You know, we got a lot of water line to replace. You know, would we be better just bring it to a 10-year?
This town's going to look a whole lot different in 10 years.
Yeah.
So doing the 3 million over 10 years is essentially $300,000 a year to pay back. And your interest rate is much smaller.
I'm thinking 30 is way too long. I'm thinking that 0.65 at 10 is a lot more practical. It's going to be a whole different town in 10 years.
Yeah. Especially once we get the water fixed with this.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I'm just curious. What would that, if it's 300,000 per year, and what would that roughly cost per homeowner? You know, or shall I say per property? Shall I say per property?
I think you're going to find it's incredibly small.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I'm just in my head. I like to see the dollar amount, because then I know how much it's going to affect me.
And it's hard to say, which is why we do this, and then they give us the number, and then council has to pass another resolution to proceed with that number.
Okay.
Well, and keep in mind, folks, if we're paying this money back in 10 years versus 30 years, it's going to be a bigger chunk.
Oh, absolutely.
That payers are going to be paying.
Absolutely. But at about half the interest rate.
Correct. So
I mean, right now it's just a trial balloon to see what the dollar figure is, right?
Correct.
So my guess is that we need to know what number we want to put in that interest rate. Correct, Jeff?
Yes.
We need to know that interest rate, and if we want to change the number of years,
that's correct.
What it would be.
I think the 10-year at 0.65 is more practical, because the entire conversation will be different in 5 years.
Right. And I'm trying to find real quick what it looked like if we did, when we talked about the ballot the last time for the income tax, because one of the things the budget commission looked at was a property tax.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, the amount that we were looking to raise made the millage too astronomical, but I was trying to see if any of my spreadsheets might have a breakdown of our rough millage. Unfortunately, I don't know that I have that right away. Well, here. No, I just have it broken down. So if it comes up at like $0.25 for a property value at $190,000, you're talking $17 a year. But I don't have the calculations further out that I can get to right now to say $300,000 divided by our property value.
Yeah, right.
Because that's the hard part to figure out, because not all property values are included in that.
Right. Okay, so my question, I guess, so how many years do we want to go? Do we know what percentage we want to go for, or what percentage interest rate will be? Do we want to go for it? Because we'll need to amend that to say that we want. Right, Jeff?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So I guess we all need to be on the same page. What do we want to look for? 10-year, 20-year, 30-year?
I mean, I you know, like I said, I originally put 30-year in because I was trying to make it as small as possible.
I
But
know.
Rick's right. It's a totally different village at 10 years, let alone 30. And if this is only the first of many projects we're going to have to do on these water lines. 10 years.
We've got a lot of water line projects to do.
Yeah.
I think when someone sees you spread it out for 30 years, they're looking at, you're not going to do any more for 30 years. I mean,
If you're going to do 30 years, you need to be asking for 15 million, not
exactly.
Three.
There you go. If you're going to go for 30 years, you need to make your money well worth it and go for a lot more to do more. So that's the other option.
Yeah. I mean,
To be honest
that is the other option. You'd go 30 years and you say, Joey just did the numbers, 101,000 linear feet, $150 a foot that we estimated came up at about 15.5 million. You got to add in that 10% overage and some engineering fees. So if you go 30 years, go 17 million, get us in the ballpark. And that also gets us roughly, I mean, the lines, if you figure they got a 50-year lifetime, it's at least paid off before they end of life.
And arguably, if you reinvest that much money in our water system, all the property values are going to go up exponentially.
And
So
that opens us to the businesses and the other people that want to come in, but are
okay,
hesitant.
so here's my question. Do we rethink this? Do we change the millage or do we change the dollar amount? Do we go for more and stretch it for 30 years instead of piecemealing it? I mean, I don't know. I'm all for to get it fixed, period. But that's my feelings.
Let me
I would like to see what it would cost each homeowner. I would love to see that number, just so I know.
look here, because in order to be on the November ballot, we have to have the resolution to proceed with the numbers passed and to the Board of Elections by deadline, I believe it'll be August 5th. Yeah, August 5th. So if we want to, and I'm sure the auditor's office will give us those numbers even without a resolution to proceed. If we wanted to look at 10 years at 3 million and 30 years at 17 million, I know they'll give them to us.
We have one more meeting to decide this.
But we have two ordinances that we have to pass. One is the resolution to proceed, and one is the has to come after this resolution of necessity. So we would have to have a special council meeting at some point in there. You know, so to do one of these, for instance, if we don't do anything tonight on it and Brian asks for those numbers so that we can make a decision, we would need to have well, maybe. You have to have the resolution to proceed, and then the auditor has to, pursuant to that, give us a certificate that says this is what it is, and then that information has to be in the resolution to proceed. That's the one that puts it on the ballot. So I would think if we don't do anything tonight and we get numbers from Brian, we would have to have a short special meeting just to do the resolution of necessity to fall in line with the revised code requirements, so that the auditor's office can put their nice little gold seal on the numbers they've already given us, that we then put into the resolution to proceed that we would have at the next council meeting. Does that make sense?
I think that's a better way to proceed, quite frankly, because then you have more concrete information.
Yes. Yeah.
And you know the increase that's going to result, and you know whether you want to go with the 10-year, 20-year, 30-year, and you're going to have a more specific dollar amount in mind. So
yeah, and I really think that if the residents see that we are physically going to move forward and fix the problems and actually upgrade the system, you might find out we have a lot more support too.
Yeah, and half your voters aren't really directly paying them.
Right.
True.
Right.
So,
I would like to have the better numbers because if I could say let's move forward with everything, I would much rather do it that way. If that's feasible, that we can do it.
And with the numbers, I think I can convince people to support it. I really do. If I've got the numbers and I think if we go and quit thinking small ball, I think we can sell it.
so let's do this in a minute. Then we'll have a motion to table this ordinance. And
Well,
then,
Mayor, you really don't need to table it. You can leave it on for a
No,
second
it's first reading.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
it's First
Yes,
reading.
we'll just let it go for we'll just let it go for the second reading.
okay.
If you need me that week I'm off, I'll just have to do it off my phone, but I can be available if you need.
So let's do this because, like I said, I know the auditor's office will turn the numbers around to us advisory in a day or two. So we'll have Brian ask them 10 years, 3 million at 0.065%. Was that correct, Jeff?
0.065.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 0.0.6.
0.65.
I was gonna say, and that's a 0.65%, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. 30 years, $17 million at 1.33%. Do we want to ask about a 20-year option somewhere in the middle?
Okay, what was the percentage in the 30-year?
1.33.
I think that asking for the 20 years somewhere in the middle makes sense because, like I said, the village could literally be twice as big, and the affordability could be completely different in 5 years versus 10 or 20 years.
All right, so we got a $14 million difference between our 10-year and our 30-year note. So half of that would be 7 million. We add that onto the 3. So at 20 years, we ask for 10 million.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, 10 million. And the 20-year note is at
1.12.
1.12%.
Yep.
So
And then
just,
what we do,
go ahead. But where did the $17 million figure come up?
the $17 million figure came up. Joey did the calculation of all of the linear footage of the water lines in the village, came up with about 101,000 feet. The estimate that we had from engineers was $150 per linear foot to replace those lines. So that gets us around 15.5 million.
Got it.
I added 1.5 million for engineering fees and your 10% excess cost. And it gets you to close to 17 million.
And does that
Okay.
include like your permit, your PTI and all that?
Yeah. Yeah,
All
because
your fees associated with it?
the 15.5 million is literally just $150 a linear foot to have the equipment to put in the ground and the guys to do it.
Sure.
So Brian, you got those numbers to get on the auditor with?
Yeah, 10 years, 3 million, 0.65. 30 years, 17 million, 1.33. And then 20 years, 10 million, 1.12.
Correct. And then Brian, once you get those numbers, let us know and we'll get a special council meeting just to discuss ordinance 2020-20 with those updated numbers.
Okay. Yeah.
So when you talk to the auditor's office, the sooner we get them, the better, because we got an August 5th deadline.
Yes, I know. And I got to deliver the tax budget anyway, so I might as well just, hey, Josh, while I'm here.
While you're here, I like that.
There you go. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Yep.
All right. So we're gonna leave this one on for now and proceed on, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. I like it, guys. I like it. All right. So then I believe that is all I have for ordinances under first readings. There's none under second readings, none under third readings. So that brings us to old business. Does anybody have any old business to bring forth? All right. Hearing none. New business. All right. Visitors, same thing. I'll check. I didn't see any emails come in. It doesn't look like it. It's a little behind, but I don't see any. So we will move on. Anybody have any last call notes? I'll note that Barb's on here, and Barb, this is for you. I'm recording this, but one of the nice things about switching to Zoom, guys, is that this, at least those of us on video, it live streams through YouTube. That I set up a free YouTube channel for the village so that people can observe. So it's also available there. Anybody else got anything? Hearing nothing, the next meeting is set for July 27th at 7:30. We know Dwayne will be out, but we'll.
But if there's,
let you know if we-
we're gonna be short, I'll make it. I'll be available.
All right, we appreciate that. And with that, I'll entertain an ordinance.
Motion to
I'll make a
adjourn?
motion, we adjourn.
Second.
I heard a motion and a second. I think everybody seconded it. So all in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, we will adjourn at 8:42. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Barb, I'll let you know as soon as the recording gets uploaded.
Yeah, who motioned that last thing? I missed it.
Foreman.
Okay. And then anybody for the second?
Oh,
Anybody
that
have
was
one?
Foreman. Foreman second.
Actually, I was,
Yeah, I think technically Foreman got in the second before anybody else, and Moeller made the original motion.
Okay. I couldn't tell. Thank you.
We could call it unanimous consent as well to adjourn.
There you go.
Good night, everyone.
Everyone, have a good evening.
Thank you.
Good.